Welcome to the S.O.A.P video series from Oak Tree Community Church in South Bend, Indiana. We are just coming up to the halfway point of the book of Genesis. Only 2 chapters this time, a little bit longer and really slowing down. I think you mentioned last time that we're sort of putting the brakes on things, right?
Yeah. Definitely from a time perspective, right?
Yeah.
And, which is great because now we get more information. During this.
Yeah, a lot of detail, in fact, in these 2 chapters. We've been doing a chapter a day, and it's like, now we're going to do 2 chapters over a week. And this will bring us to chapter 25 out of 50. So we're right here.
Yeah. All right, so last week, Abraham meets with the king in the land of Canaan and tells him that Sarah is his sister. And we see that happen over and over again, right? So nothing different there. So Sarah gets added to the king's harem, and God strongly recommends to the king of Limujii that he should give her back to Abraham.
That's a nice way to put it.
Right. So now it's the same story as before. Why would you say it's your sister? Why wouldn't you tell me this? I thought you were going to kill me.
Yeah.
But they actually end up on good terms. And I think part of the reason is they need to be on good terms because they're neighbors, and both of them are strong.
Both of them are really strong. Let's not forget, Abraham, we saw, may have 1,000 employees working for him. I mean, this was
meaning
not
soldiers.
Just, soldiers and everything. I mean, he was essentially a king of his own little city.
Right.
That movable city, his little nomad city, right?
Yeah. So finally, at age 100, right? Mm-hmm. Abraham and Sarah, they have a son, Isaac. Yay! So when Isaac is a young man, God tests Abraham, and I think if anybody says, hey, what story do you know about Abraham? This is the story.
It's definitely one of the most come up. Yeah.
So God tests him, saying that you have to sacrifice your son. You can read it. It's in there, I'm sure, if you've gone to any Bible schools, especially like a Treehouse Kid area like we have, it would have been part of the story. But Abraham follows God's word, and he's faithful, and he goes through the whole process, and when it's time, literally with the knife in hand, to actually kill Isaac, an angel of the Lord stops him. And at the end of our reading last week, Sarah has passed away. She dies. Abraham buys a cave, and there's a whole process in there, but he buys a cave and a field for her tomb.
Yeah.
So then we get to this week, and this week in chapter 24, we see a lot about the whole marriage process. And I think it's really interesting. We see a whole lot about the process and nothing about the actual marriage, which is okay. And as we've been telling you, Abraham is rich.
Yeah.
And so he's old, and he needs to find a wife for Isaac, who is his heir.
So we are fast forwarding again here because it just says Abraham was old, but we find out that Isaac was 40 years old now when he got married. So he's 40 years old in this chapter. So Abraham now is 140 years old. So, that's that's sort of an understatement. And Abraham was old. Well, he was well advanced in years.
Well advanced in age, So, Abraham calls his most favorite servant, right? The guy that he can rely on, right? The guy that can get things done.
The guy who he wanted to be his heir before Isaac was born. Like, this was his most trusted guy. Right?
And he makes him take an oath. And he gives him a bunch of rules, too. And of course, you can read for all these. I don't know if I'll point out all of them, but the new wife cannot be a Canaanite, right? They are living in the land of Canaan. That's where they're at. And he's like, nope, no wives from there.
Yeah.
So you have to go back to where I came from.
Yeah.
And that's the way I have it figured out was the land of Ur. Because in Genesis 11:28, that's where he came from.
Yeah.
But you have an update.
So at the end of chapter 22, just one of the little details we didn't go into on the video is that Abraham's surviving brother Nahor has moved from Ur up to Haran, where Abraham and Nahor's dad had died. So Abraham left Ur, went up to Haran. Terah died there before Abraham moved into Canaan, right? Well, some years later, Nahor followed. Or some time later, I should say, Nahor follows. Maybe it was while Dad was sick and then died or something, but Nahor is up there now. The other brother has died back in Ur. His son Lot had followed with it. with Abraham. So I don't think there's really much in the way of immediate family in Ur
left there.
yeah,
everybody's
anymore.
moved.
So now Haran, where Nahor is and where Abraham is sending his servant, is actually at the north end of the Euphrates River, not the south end, in what we
Where
would
Ur
call, modern day Syria, actually.
Okay.
So not quite as long of a trip, but still a long way.
Yeah. So the servant has to go there to find the wife, and Isaac himself must never go back to his descendants.
Yeah.
I mean, God was clear about this.
Well, because let's not forget, Abraham came out of an idol worshiping, a pagan religious system, and just like Abraham did not want a wife from the Canaanites, he didn't want Isaac getting sucked back into the family, getting sucked back into that old way of doing things. So yeah, we'll take someone from the family, but we're not sending you back there. This was completely separate.
Now, I don't know how the servant felt, but God also said an angel's going to help the servant find his wife.
Yeah.
So he had to be,
Pretty
probably
happy with that.
Well, yeah, but except, okay, how's this going to work? And if the wife is not willing to come back with him, which would have been the senior servant, because there couldn't have been a marriage till she was brought back.
Right.
The senior servant is free from this oath.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is well thought out.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you have a way out.
It's not his fault if she says no or if the family says no. You know, you're tasked with the job.
Right. Yeah, and
but
you're
it's
not
out
going
of
to
your
kidnap
hand.
her and bring her back. Because he didn't say you're free.
Yeah.
All right, so the servant took 10 camels with him. And he took a bunch of stuff, I'm sure. You know, he would have to take food, everything else. But he took 10 camels. I wasn't sure if that was a show of wealth or if it was just a practical thing.
Probably a little bit of both. Like I said, it's a long way. He's carrying lots of gifts with him because of the bride price. And there are other people.
And he took
wasn't
other
by
men with him,
himself,
too.
right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think, and it's a long walk. So I think they probably rode, those camels and they were
rode,
carrying
walked,
stuff
and used it to
food
carry.
and everything.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean, yes, it would have been a show of wealth, but they needed some transportation.
They're packing the cars and going.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so I thought it was interesting. The servant gives God his plan. And the servant's plan is, and this is a prayer that the servant gives to God. And basically, once we're at the watering hole, the servant is going to say to a girl that comes up to get water, "Hey, please lower your jar. I'm thirsty. Right? Give me something to drink." Mm-hmm. So that's part A. Part B is, if she agrees to that, then I'll say, then I want her to say, "And I'll give your camels water too."
Yeah.
Which seems, very logical. Wouldn't every girl say that? And the answer to that is no.
No.
Right? He had 10 camels. Camel can drink, I looked it up. Camel can drink 25 gallons. I don't know if that's old camels or new camel, but we're going with 25 gallons.
Wow.
That's 250 gallons that she's going to have to schlep up.
Yeah.
Not every girl's going to agree to that.
No. Right. Or even offer it.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, to me, realizing how much wealth is in here, they talk about a gold nose ring, 2 gold wrist bracelets. Okay, that doesn't seem extravagant.
Yeah.
But then gold and silver jewelry and clothes to the wife to be Rebecca.
Yeah.
And valuable gifts to the brother and
everything.
mother.
Yep.
And then maybe camels were in there. Didn't really say.
This is actually very customary. It's called a bride price. It's different. In fact, it's the opposite of a dowry. Most people are more familiar with a dowry.
Right.
That's when the bride's family gives money or pays the groom's family. Right. The bride price, though, is actually when the groom pays pays the dad for the loss of the dad's daughter and the family. Right. I mean, it still happens. I have personal friends who right now are saving up money and negotiating with the family as far as what they need to pay, whether it's animals or money or whatever.
And the daughter really has no problem with that, right?
Well, it's part of the culture,
right?
And unfortunately, sometimes even in Christian families, but because it's just part of the culture, it's not necessarily a Christian or a non-Christian thing. Unfortunately, because it's two families, the bride's family gets involved in, okay, well, Uncle so-and-so needs this and Uncle so-and-so needs this, and the list can get actually very, very long.
Yeah.
So seeing this doesn't surprise me,
Yeah.
right? Just seeing
Yeah.
what happens today.
All right, so the servant rehashes the whole story of what's going on, and this isn't just to take up space and to make the chapter long, but this happens a number of times in the Bible as a whole, and the rehash really reinforces the narrative,
Yeah.
and it also brings out some differences too, or some changes, or
Yeah.
more information
Yeah.
to support the story.
Yeah.
So make sure to continue to read it.
Yeah.
And then also notice when Rebecca leaves, she's blessed by her family, and one of the things they say is, "May you become a mother of thousands and thousands."
Yeah.
So is that just part of the Abrahamic covenant?
I mean, it certainly sounds like it. The question is, does her family know of the Abrahamic covenant?
Well, that's right.
So, and that's hard. That's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can see. I mean, you can sort of sense that would. It feels like a Middle Eastern, or it feels like an ancient blessing, right? Because especially sons are going to bring wealth to the family and going to bring new daughters into the family instead of sending them away. And so, I mean, obviously it's hyperbole. She's not going to be mother of thousands and thousands, but mother of many, or mother of nations, or mother of whatever. I mean, that's sort of like just an ancient blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to the Mosaic or the Abrahamic covenant, but I like the fact that it's sort of in there, even if they didn't know about it.
Right.
It's going to be.
Right.
I mean, it is what God promised.
Right. Okay. So as we said, Sarah has passed away. So Abraham remarries, has 6 sons. I'm sure he had some daughters too that weren't named.
Probably.
And some of these created smaller nations, which is kind of a cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you can actually. There are a couple of names in here that you might recognize from later on in the Bible. Midian, Sheba, Dedan is mentioned in Job, I think, and some of these other places.
Right.
Yeah.
So Isaac, of course, was the heir. He got everything after his death, but before his death, he did give some wealth to others. And interestingly enough, is like, here's a bunch of money. Now you got to go move away from us.
Yeah. Well, again,
right? Competition.
This is the competition. Abraham did not want, Isaac,
distracted.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like Abraham had some concubines as well. I mean,
Yeah.
It says he remarried. We don't know anything about them other than Hagar, right? So, but, I mean, they're mentioned in here. And, he gave gifts to the sons of the concubines and his new wife, and then said, go away.
Yeah, go.
And
go
it
live by
says,
Egypt.
it actually says sent them off to the east.
Right.
Which the east could be back to his family in Haran, could even be as far as the Euphrates back to Ur. I mean, this could have been like, I want you to leave the entire country. I want you to get out of here altogether, not just, go across the street.
Right. So at this point, Abraham lived to 175 years.
Yeah.
Nice ripe age.
Yeah. So a
Full life.
35-year fast forward after chapter
that?
24 to the
into
beginning of
this.
25. Yeah.
So I thought it was really interesting. He was buried next to Sarah by Isaac and Ishmael.
Yeah.
Ishmael returns to the picture.
Ishmael's still here. Yeah, he's not as far away as the rest of them are. He's down closer to Egypt, I think. But so what we're going to see here is actually there's a really neat outline in the book of Genesis. The Hebrew word is called toledot, and there are 10 of these toledots. It means generations of, or like in our translation here is this is the account of. And so there are 10 times in Genesis it creates this is the account of, or these are the generations of. The first one is the host of heavens and earth, and then we go through Adam, and then we go through Seth and whatever all the way down. And that breaks down. It's a built-in outline, and what it does is it closes off a section and starts a new one. So you know that you're moving into a new one. So we're closing off the story of Abraham, closing off the story of Ishmael. Isaac actually gets one, and then we move very quickly into the story of Jacob as the next major section in our book. And it's hard to see in English, but if you were reading through
it does make sense
in Hebrew, I mean, these are built in. Moses built this in, and there are 10 sections basically in the book of Genesis.
Okay, so as you said, that closes out. God blessed Isaac, and now our focus is going to be on him, right, and his offspring.
On his sons, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Isaac was 40 when he married Rebekah. 20 years later, after praying, they had their first son, so he's now 60.
Yeah.
It was a hard pregnancy. After praying to God, Rebekah was told that there's 2 nations in her womb.
Yep.
And they're struggling with each other. I mean, that's an awesome visual there. And that the older will serve the younger.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so this is going to set up the rest of the Jacob and Esau story. It's going to set up, I mean, like the next 10 chapters basically is this struggle.
So at birth, the first one came out, he had red hair, so named Esau. When the second son came out right after the first, he was clutching his brother's heel, on the way out. So his name was Jacob, which was a play on the word heel, which also means like rear guard.
Yeah.
He's coming
out
out the rear.
Yeah, coming out the back, yeah.
So Esau was a skilled hunter, wanted to be outside. Jacob seemed to be more even-tempered, living in tents. Isaac, their dad, loved Esau because he had a taste for fresh game. So of course you like the guy who wants to be outside because he's going to be the hunter in the group. But Rebekah, the wife, loved the other son, Jacob.
Yeah. So I mean, it's sort of, and you can sort of see it. Isaac was an outdoorsman. Isaac loved the outside. He was all, and so his son. His firstborn was just like him. I'm sure they hunted together. As the boys grew up, they built, this really strong bond. Jacob, not so much of an outdoors guy. He liked to stay inside. We find he likes to cook. He's just a different
guy.
Different guy. Different temperament, different everything. But there's the problem is that the parents obviously favored one over the other. And that also is going to create some issues, over the next several chapters.
Right. So the big story here is the selling of the birthright, right? Yeah. The first son will serve the second son.
Yeah.
And we see that Esau does sell his birthright for a bowl of red stew. Yeah. It seems that he had been told ever since birth that he was going to be the lesser, at least to me. I know I'm reading into this. Yeah. But it actually says Esau despised his birthright because it must have been thrown in his face. So he's probably figured, I'll get this stew out of it.
I'm not sure that the prophecy necessarily says he wouldn't get the birthright. In the culture, the birthright would be twice the stuff, twice as much as anybody else. So in his case, it would be 2/3, and Jacob would be 1/3. But it says that the nations are going to, be a part, and one people, not necessarily Esau and Jacob themselves, but the nations that would come out of them would have this dynamic. We never see.
But it did say the older would serve the younger.
Yeah, but I think it's referring to the nations.
The nations versus,
we never see Esau serving Jacob as an individual, as a man, right? So I don't think the birthright should have been an issue. I think they created an issue that didn't actually have to be there.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. But you're right. I mean, I'm sure they heard this story and it created an animosity along with Isaac and Rebekah favoring them. I mean, they created their own problem. God didn't create this problem. Right. They created their own problem and they just kept...
Right. So one day Esau comes in, must not have got any kill. He's starving. Jacob had already made some food. I'll sell you this, but you have to promise your birthright, for this bowl of stew.
Yeah.
And he accepted it.
And
he made him swear to it. So, it was formally done.
Well, it was funny that it just so happened to have the contract right here. If you just sign right here, it's like, okay, you've been thinking, but
you've been carrying it for a while.
This was not a spur of the moment thing. But the fact that Esau despised his birthright, I mean, he didn't even care about it,
right?
Which that tells us a little bit about the man,
and the family life.
Yeah, the family. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Jacob had the contract already right there, also tells us about Jacob.
Right.
But I mean, you can see these personalities coming out. We don't know how old they were at this point, but they were grown to some level, right?
Right. And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
So we actually moved a lot. I mean, it was 2 chapters. We are definitely slowing down, but we moved a couple generations away from Abraham.
Yeah. Chronologically, we pushed a lot of years at this point. So, yeah. Yep. So hopefully you find that interesting, some of the little details that we were able to bring out, because it wasn't quite as long of a reading, only a couple of chapters. This is the fun part about doing Bible study is seeing how this stuff fits together, right? So if you have questions about anything that we said, or you say, I've never heard that before, or I thought it was this, or have you guys considered this angle? We'd love to hear all of those things. Happy to hear that. Feel free to put a comment down here or send an email or something, and we look forward to hearing from you. We will pick up here right at the midpoint of Genesis next time. Bye.
See you.